Small hatchbacks. These cars have to do it all, be great for nipping around town, hold their own on the motorway, have sufficient creature comforts, offer a modicum of practicality and be cheap as chips to buy and run. And, of course, easy to park.
But which should you choose between the Ford Fiesta, the Volkswagen Polo or the Vauxhall, or Opel depending on where you're from, Corsa? Yeah, super mini group test in the colours of the Azerbaijani flag. Now, you're probably thinking, wait a minute, shouldn't there be a star in the middle of the flag? Well, there you go, now the star is in the middle.
To help you decide, I'm going to compare their design.
It looks like a bit of a square, but a posh square. So, like Sloane Square then.
Test what they're like to drive.
This Corsa feels like the biggest car to drive.
And see how practical they are.
The Fiesta has the biggest boot out of all three cars, so yay!
But first, let's see what you get for your money.
Now the starting price of the Fiesta is the most expensive, and that's because the range begins with the Z-Tech model, and it does have quite a decent amount of equipment on it, and it starts from just under £13,500. Now you don't want the entry-level version of the Polo though, because it's got bugger all kit on it. You need to step up to the match, and it starts from just under £13,000. The Corsa though is the cheapest car here, but once again you don't want the entry-level car, you need to step up to the design model, but it starts from under £12,000. But what really matters is the price you pay at a dealer. If you click up there to go to carwow.co.uk, you can compare offers from top dealers and buy at a price you're confident with. And on average, people save £3,600 on a new car at Carwow.
The first thing to be aware of is that an all-new version of the Fiesta is due out in mid-2017, so only consider the current car if the discounts are good. Secondly, the Fiesta and Corsa we have here for test are just 3-door models, but it doesn't cost much more to upgrade them to the more practical 5-door versions if you prefer practicality rather than style. Speaking of which, let's talk about design, because while they may be small, these cars still need to look good.
The Fiesta may be due for replacement soon, but it's still looking sharp at the front thanks to that grille, which has been inspired by Aston Martin. Or should that be copied from Aston Martin?
Unfortunately, the rest of the car is starting to look a little dated. The Corsa is no spring chicken, but its shape has stood the test of time slightly better.
It's got a grinning face, a little bit like a Cheshire cat, although in this paint scheme, maybe that should be Cheshire frog. Either way, it works on a small car such as this. Gives it personality, and personality goes a long way.
The Polo, meanwhile, just like its bigger brother the Golf, isn't exactly the life and soul of the small car party.
It looks like a bit of a square, but a posh square. So, like Sloane Square then.
Inside though, the Polo is very well thought out, and you can tell it tries to have a bit more class than its rivals.
There's a nice solid Germanic feel to everything, so you think that everything won't ever break, right up until the point it actually does break. Speaking of which, some of the materials are a bit cheaper than you might imagine from a Volkswagen. Still, everything is dead easy to use, and the infotainment screen, yeah, it's nice and slick, and you can get it with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay.
The Vauxhall also gets foam mirroring, and the infotainment system and the rest of the interior for that matter runs the Polo pretty close on quality and usability. What's more, the Corsa has an ace up its sleeve.
You can get it with something called OnStar, and that includes internet connectivity, an SOS feature if you have an accident. There's also a concierge service, so you can call someone and they can help you out with any kind of problems you may have. And it also includes an app for your mobile phone, so you can control some of the car's functions remotely, such as lock it or even sound the alarm. Now that's big car tech for small car money.
Sadly, with the Fiesta, there is nothing high-tech about it. The infotainment system is from yesteryear, and this theme continues throughout the entire interior.
The design is just so old-fashioned. For instance, this centre console was modelled on that of an old Nokia mobile phone. I mean, it's just terrible, really. And then there's a perceived quality, and to tell you the truth, I'm not perceiving much quality at all. I mean, look at this. Yes, the Fiesta isn't up to the scratch of the other two cars.
Its range of in-car storage is, however, pretty good, and this brings us on to practicality.
The Fiesta has the biggest boot out of all three cars, so yay for that. However, it's only bigger by around 10 litres, and it's devoid of any kind of clever features, and it doesn't make the best use of its available space, so boo for that.
There's no underfloor storage, but you do get a full-size spare wheel, though the narrow boot means fitting a child stroller is a bit of a squeeze. Also, when you fold the seats down, there's a huge ridge in the load bay. However, you can still cram quite a lot in.
The Corsa's boot is a decent size. It's a nice square shape as well. You can get it with a false floor, which is handy if you want to raise the boot up. But the only problem is that quite a few models come with a single bench back seat, which is just a bit rubbish.
This means you can't carry long items and rear passengers at the same time. Also, you'll need to fold the seats down to carry a set of golf clubs, as with them up the boot isn't that wide. A stroller will fit, and the overall load lugging capacity, seats up or down, is slightly better than the Ford's. Also, cabin spaces are very good. The only letdown is the small glove box. The one in the Polo is much bigger, but while the front door bins are good, those in the back are titchy.
The Polo has the most flexible boot, so this match version comes with an adjustable false floor, which means that there's no low lip ready to lift stuff over, and when you fold down the rear seats, they split 40-60, you get a flat load bay.
Due to its nice square shape, the Polo's boot is the easiest to pack, and that makes this car the best for load lugging.
So, as you can probably tell, this is the only 5-door car we've got on test, and if you were going to buy one of the other two, I would get them in 5-door guys as well, because it's just more practical, makes it easier to get into the back. And here in the back of the Polo, it's not quite as big as I'd imagine. It's a little bit on the tight side, actually.
Headroom is tight and legroom is even tighter, so it's not great for adults. And it's torture with 3 in the back at once. Also, the hidden ISOFIX anchor points make it harder than necessary to fit a child seat. It's the same problem with the Fiesta, which also has hidden ISOFIX points. Plus, it's pretty horrid for carrying 3 people in the back as well.
The Fiesta definitely feels the tightest here in the back. The 5-door version is slightly more roomy, but still overall, it's not great for rear passengers.
Now you may be thinking it's silly to expect a spacious rear in such a small hatchback, but not necessarily.
The Corsa definitely feels the roomiest here in the back seats. I mean, even this 3-door version, if I sit up straight, there's still enough headroom.
Even people over 6 foot can get comfy, and it's even bearable with 3 in the back at once. The Corsa is also the easiest when it comes to fitting a child seat, thanks to its spacious rear and easy access ISOFIX anchors. Well, that's the sensible stuff dealt with, so now let's have some fun.
Superminis are perfect for driving around town, but I want to see which is the easiest to park by having a little challenge. Well, that was pretty good. Next car.
Now it's the Polo's turn.
Do you know what? I'd say that was even better.
Finally, let's test the Fiesta.
Was that a tie between the Polo and the Fiesta? Maybe the Polo lost because I actually hit a car when I was pulling out the space. Either way, they're all dead easy to park.
Finally, it's time to hit the road and see what these small cars are like to drive.
If your number one priority for a small car is that you want it to be fun to drive, get the Fiesta. It is way more fun than the other 2 cars. The controls just feel right, and the way it goes around corners is quite surprising for such a cheap, affordable car. There is a trade-off though. The suspension is a bit on the firm side compared to the other 2, especially in this ST line model because it's got stiffened suspension. But, you know, it's not too bad, and on the whole the car is comfortable enough for this kind of price point, though it can be a bit noisy when you're travelling at speed. This 1 litre EcoBoost in this car is pretty nippy, but I'm not so keen on the sound of it. It seems a little bit vibey as well. It's like when you accelerate. But on the whole, the Fiesta, to drive, it's a right old laugh.
So I averaged 47 miles per gallon from the Ford's 100 horsepower engine, which is okay. So how will the supposedly efficient German measure up?
Now when you jump in the Volkswagen Polo, it's clear this car is set up mainly with comfort in mind. So the suspension is great at ironing out the bumps in the road. It's reasonably quiet as well. Even when you're going at speed, you do get a little bit of tyre roar, but that's about it. And it's just so easy to drive. The controls are perfectly weighted. Visibility is excellent. You can see out of it. The problem with it though is that it's just a little bit boring. So throw it into a corner and it will go round. It grips okay, but it rolls quite a lot, and you know, it's very difficult to extract any kind of fun out of this car. Don't think the engine in this one helps much. It's a 1 litre 3-cylinder, no turbo on it, 75 horsepower. Put your foot down and it makes a noise and doesn't go particularly quickly. Yeah, it's going to take all day to overtake someone.
Still, the car did manage 55 miles per gallon, which was better than the Fiesta, but I'm not sure it was worth the pain. However, can a bright green car do any better?
Now you'd imagine that the Vauxhall Corsa would be nowhere near as good to drive as the Ford Fiesta or the Volkswagen Polo. And do you know what? it's kind of not as comfy as the Polo and it's not as sporty as the Ford, but it actually reaches the perfect midpoint. So it goes round corners without the body roll of that Volkswagen Polo, but it has more comfort than the Ford Fiesta. I think it's a really nice balance. Also, this particular car has the best engine. I love this 3-cylinder 1-litre turbocharged petrol engine in this Vauxhall. It's smoother than the one that you get in the Ford Fiesta, and yeah, I mean, it's not really comparable, but the horrible 3-cylinder without a turbo that we got in that Polo is just so deathly slow. I mean, I think this is a really good compromise. In fact, this Corsa feels like the biggest car to drive, and that is high praise.
I would love to tell you what I average in the Corsa, but this car actually doesn't have a trick computer. What the heck was Vauxhall thinking? So, where does that leave us?
Well, the Ford Fiesta is without doubt the most fun to drive. It really is a laugh, actually. The Volkswagen Polo is the most comfortable to travel in. But the Vauxhall Corsa, it manages to create a nice balance between comfort and handling. It feels very spacious on the inside. It's got decent technology. That 1-litre turbocharged petrol engine is absolutely brilliant, and it is really good value for money, and that matters a lot with the Super Mini, and that's why the Corsa wins this test. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it, and click on the big CarWow logo to subscribe to our channel. Also click on the individual video windows to watch the in-depth video reviews of each of the cars in this test. Now, did you know that Ford didn't introduce the blue oval signature badge until 4 years after the company was founded?